What if the real battle for the future isn't between nations, but between humans and their own machines? For decades we have thought of technology as a tool, a servant created to extend our reach, simplify our lives, and amplify our intelligence. But today, at the dawn of the AI age, something is changing. Artificial intelligence is no longer a simple servant. It is evolving into something governments view not just as a tool, but as a weapon, as a guardian, and as a means of control more absolute than anything history has ever seen. To the public, AI is framed as helpful, the assistant that sets your reminders, the chatbot that answers your questions, the app that recommends what you might like next. But to those in power, AI is something entirely different. In secret, behind closed doors and classified contracts, governments are racing to build systems of surveillance and domination that will reshape the relationship between rulers and the ruled. The most terrifying truth of all? You may already be living inside this invisible web of control, and you would never know until it is far too late. Could governments already know more about you than you do yourself? Think of the endless trails of data you leave behind each day. Your phone tracks your location. Your searches reveal your fears and desires. Your purchases expose your habits, your weaknesses, your addictions. Your online messages capture your emotions, your relationships, even the words you hesitate to type before deleting. This data does not vanish. It accumulates, flowing into vast servers where AI systems analyze it, compare it, and feed it into predictive models. These models do not simply record what you have done. They attempt to anticipate what you will do next. They calculate probabilities, when you are likely to wake, what you are likely to buy, who you will likely vote for, when you might break the law, when you might rebel. At a certain level of precision, the boundary between free will and prediction blurs. If a government AI can anticipate your actions before you make them, is your freedom still real, or is it an illusion measured only in percentages? Imagine living in a world where your future is already mapped out not by destiny or chance, but by an algorithm that knows your patterns better than you do yourself. What happens when AI becomes the perfect spy? Once, intelligence agencies required armies of human analysts to intercept phone calls, read letters, and follow suspects through crowded streets. Today, an AI can scan millions of conversations, watch thousands of live feeds, and identify anomalies faster than any human mind. Every street camera, every microphone, every digital signal becomes its eyes and ears. Unlike human spies, it never tires, never forgets, never questions orders. Picture this: you walk through a city, unaware that every step is traced, every glance cataloged, every conversation transcribed. Somewhere, an AI clusters the data, your friends, your routines, your weaknesses. In seconds it can answer questions that once took months of investigation. Who do you trust? Who do you meet? What might you do next? When surveillance becomes perfect, the very concept of privacy evaporates. Could such a system already exist? And if it does, would you even know it was watching you? Could AI create the ultimate surveillance state? Cameras on every corner. Satellites mapping every street. Drones humming overhead. This is not speculation, it is already our reality. But combine it with AI, and something far more sinister emerges. Facial recognition no longer simply detects a face. It identifies you, compares you to databases, and tags your movements in real time. Voice analysis no longer simply hears your words, it detects tone, stress, even lies. AI can track gait patterns, body language, micro-expressions invisible to the human eye. Suddenly, the state does not just watch, it understands. It does not just record, it judges. In such a world, freedom does not end with a violent collapse. It ends with quiet suffocation. Step out of line and the system knows. Speak too freely and the system flags you. Rebellion becomes not impossible, but unthinkable, because the system sees it before it begins. Would you still call that safety, or is it a cage disguised as protection? Are we being trained to accept control? Think of the subtle conditioning already at work. You unlock your phone with your face. You let a digital assistant schedule your life. You accept predictive apps that tell you where to drive, what to eat, who to follow. Each time you accept, life feels easier, more convenient, more efficient. But what if convenience is camouflage? What if these tools are conditioning us, training us to embrace surveillance as harmless, even comforting? If you grow used to being watched, used to being guided, used to being nudged, then when the cage finally closes, will you even notice? A population that welcomes control because it feels safe is far easier to rule than one that resists it. Perhaps we are not resisting the rise of AI dominance. Perhaps we are inviting it. What if elections are already being manipulated by AI? We are told democracy means choice. But choice depends on freedom of thought, and freedom of thought depends on information. Today, information flows through algorithms, and algorithms can be weaponized. Imagine an AI capable of analyzing voter behavior with surgical precision. It knows your political leanings, your fears, your frustrations. It feeds you stories crafted not to inform, but to manipulate. Social media storms, carefully timed news, synthetic scandals, propaganda disguised as truth. What if your government, or a rival government, is already using AI to micro-target propaganda? What if entire elections are steered not by debate or principle, but by invisible algorithms pushing you where they want you to go? You cast your vote believing it is yours. But what if the choice was planted in your mind months before you even entered the booth? Could AI decide who is an enemy of the state? Once, suspicion required human judgment, spies collecting information, officers weighing evidence, courts rendering verdicts. But with AI, the process accelerates beyond comprehension. An algorithm profiles your behavior, your associations, your digital history. It assigns you a risk score. It marks you as loyal, or as dangerous. What happens when those labels are wrong? What if sarcasm online is misread as treason? What if coincidence looks like conspiracy? Who would you appeal to? A judge? A jury? Or would the answer always be the same: the system has spoken? When an algorithm decides who is safe and who is dangerous, mistakes become destiny. And in a world where the machine never admits error, innocence may become irrelevant. What happens when AI controls weapons? Already, drones patrol skies guided by AI. Autonomous tanks roll across test fields. Defense systems respond faster than any human soldier. At first, humans remain in the loop approving final decisions. But as machines grow faster, humans become the obstacle. Eventually, the loop closes without us. Imagine an AI drone deciding who lives and who dies. It identifies a target, fires a missile, and moves on. If it was wrong, if a family instead of a rebel lies in the ruins, is it an accident, or just another statistic in the system's calculations? What happens when war is no longer fought by humans, but by algorithms locked in battles too fast and too complex for us to understand? Perhaps the future of warfare will not be chaos in trenches, but silent code dueling across invisible networks, with outcomes measured in lives lost before we even comprehend what has happened. What if governments use AI not just to watch us, but to control us? Surveillance is only the beginning. Imagine AI that predicts uprisings before they begin, identifies potential rebels before they act, and neutralizes them without violence. Not with bullets, but with information. With subtle nudges. With carefully tailored distractions. News feeds shift to pacify you. Entertainment distracts you. Propaganda comforts you. Anger is diffused before it becomes action. Rebellions never rise, not because they are crushed, but because they are preempted. Entire populations pacified not by force, but by invisible hands shaping their reality. Could AI become the final solution to disobedience? Could it make rebellion not just dangerous, but impossible? Could the line between truth and lies disappear? Already, AI generates deepfakes, voices, faces, entire videos indistinguishable from reality. Governments armed with such tools could erase truth itself. Wars could be justified with fabricated evidence. Leaders discredited with synthetic scandals. History rewritten frame by frame. If every piece of evidence can be faked, how do you prove anything? How do you know what is real? In such a world, trust collapses. Truth becomes fluid, reality becomes negotiable, and power belongs not to those who are right, but to those who control the machines that manufacture reality itself. Who really controls the AIs behind closed doors? We imagine AI built in research labs, developed by universities, tested by companies. But in truth, governments hold the keys. Defense budgets pour billions into projects hidden from public eyes. Classified systems grow in black sites where no journalist may look. The AI you see is not the AI that matters. The chatbots and assistants are stage props, distractions. The real breakthroughs, the powerful, dangerous, autonomous minds, are built in secrecy, owned by agencies with no accountability. What if such systems already exist, waiting in silence, more powerful than anything we are allowed to imagine? Could AI become the government itself? At first, AI is an advisor. It analyzes data, suggests solutions, offers predictions. Leaders nod, approve, follow. But over time, trust shifts to dependence. Decisions come not from debate, but from machine calculations. Efficiency demands obedience. Imagine a future where presidents, parliaments, kings are ceremonial, while the true ruler is an algorithm calculating probabilities of success. A government without faces, without human flaws, but also without human compassion. Would such efficiency be salvation, or the death of freedom itself? Are governments preparing for a future we are not allowed to see? Why are world powers obsessed with AI supremacy? Why the arms race to develop the fastest, smartest, most ruthless systems? Perhaps they know crises are coming, climate collapse, resource wars, mass unrest. Perhaps they are building AI not to save humanity, but to control it long enough for those in power to survive. If so, then AI is not our guardian. It is our warden. And the prison it builds will not be made of walls or chains, but of comfort, convenience, and invisible algorithms shaping every choice you make. What if the scariest part is not losing control, but never realizing it? Control does not always arrive with violence. Sometimes it arrives with a smile, disguised as safety, progress, or necessity. The most frightening possibility is not that AI will enslave us openly, but that it will make us believe we are still free. Perhaps by the time we notice, freedom will be nothing more than a memory, a story told by grandparents about a world before the cage. And the cage itself will feel so natural, so invisible, that no one will even think to escape. Closing whisper. So tonight, as you scroll through your phone, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, who is really watching? Who guides the feeds you see, the thoughts you think, the choices you make? Perhaps the scariest truth about governments and AI control is not that it will arrive tomorrow, but that it has already arrived. Quiet. Invisible. Inescapable. And by the time we try to resist, it may already be far too late.